When my wife texted me that she wanted a divorce and told me to talk to her lawyer, I just stared at the message for a long time. There were no arguments leading up to it, no warnings, no hints that she was even unhappy. Just a cold, emotionless text. I want a divorce. Talk to my lawyer. I replied with 2 words. Got it. It was all I could manage, but even then, I wasn't sure if I wanted to scream or laugh. After 7 years of marriage, that was how it ended. Through a text message. The next few days passed in a blur. I didn't try to call her, and she didn't reach out again. Our house felt strange, quiet, yet heavy, like something dark had settled in every room. Her clothes were still in the closet, her perfume still on the dresser, but her presence was gone. I tried to convince myself that maybe this was for the best. If she wanted out so easily, then maybe I'd been living with someone who'd already left me emotionally long ago. When the letter from her lawyer finally arrived, I expected to see divorce papers. Instead, it was a formal request for financial documents and information about shared accounts. That's when it hit me, she wasn't just leaving, she wanted control of everything. I didn't even care much about the money, but it felt like she wanted to erase me completely. Still, I remained calm. I gathered everything they asked for, scanned the documents, and sent them back to her lawyer. But while doing that, something odd caught my attention. There were several unfamiliar transactions in our joint account, large withdrawals, all made in cash over the past few months. I hadn't noticed them before. The amounts weren't small either. Curiosity turned into suspicion. I checked our credit card statements next. There were charges from hotels, expensive restaurants, and luxury stores, none of which I'd been to. I didn't jump to conclusions right away. Maybe it was for her work. Maybe she was helping someone. But the more I looked, the less it made sense. Every transaction was carefully spaced out, almost like someone trying to avoid being noticed. That night, I sat in the dark living room, scrolling through our shared photos. Smiles, vacations, dinners, all memories that now felt fake. I wondered when exactly she'd stopped loving me, or if she ever really did. Around midnight, I got an idea. I logged into our family cloud storage, something we rarely used, mostly for backup photos. I hadn't checked it in months. What I found there made my hands tremble. Hidden in a folder named Documents, there were screenshots of bank transfers, not from me, but from her personal account to another man. The same man's name appeared multiple times, often with notes like, for rent, for trip, and thanks, love. I didn't know him, but it was clear she'd been financially supporting someone. My wife wasn't just cheating, she was funding another life behind my back. I could have confronted her right away, but something told me to wait. I made copies of everything and sent them to my personal email. Then, I contacted her lawyer and said I was ready to discuss the divorce. The meeting was set for the next week. When the day came, she walked in looking calm, dressed perfectly as always, not a trace of guilt on her face. She didn't look at me directly, only at her lawyer. "Let's keep this simple," she said coldly. I nodded, pretending to agree. Halfway through, her lawyer mentioned financial support and division of marital assets. That's when I took out the printed copies of her hidden transactions and placed them on the table. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, she looked shaken. "What's this?" her lawyer asked. I leaned forward and said, "Proof that she's been transferring money to another man for months. Not for work, not for family, but for an affair she thought I wouldn't find out about." The silence in the room was thick. Her face went pale, her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Her lawyer quickly ended the meeting, clearly realizing they were in trouble. That evening, she showed up at the house, angry and panicked. "You had no right to dig into my accounts," she shouted. I didn't even raise my voice. "You had no right to lie to me for years," I replied. "You wanted this divorce, remember? You got it. But you're not getting a cent of what you tried to take." She broke down, crying, trying to explain that it wasn't what it looked like. But I'd heard enough lies to last a lifetime. Days later, I got another call, not from her, but from the man she'd been sending money to. He said he was sorry, that she'd told him I was abusive, that she needed help escaping. It was all part of her story to justify taking money from our accounts. She had manipulated both of us, me emotionally, and him financially. The man even offered to testify if needed. When the truth finally surfaced, her entire plan unraveled. The court found that she'd misused shared funds and lied about financial needs. The divorce went through quickly after that. She got nothing beyond what she brought into the marriage. I didn't feel triumphant. Just free. Empty, but free. Months passed, and I started to rebuild my life. Sometimes I'd get a message from her, always short, always filled with regret. I never replied. There was no point. The woman I thought I loved was gone long before that first text arrived. In the end, I realized something powerful. Silence can be stronger than anger. When I said, "Got it," I didn't know that my calm reply would be the beginning of her downfall. She wanted control, but all she exposed was her own secret. And as she lost everything, I finally found peace, not from revenge, but from walking away without saying another word.